This idea that he might take up the offer of a palace over in the UAE, 16,000 square foot. The Emirates billionaire ruler of Abu Dhabi has said, look, he can come and live his life out here instead. I mean, talk about landing on your feet.
In the shimmering desert heat of Abu Dhabi, far from the cold corridors of Windsor Castle, a quiet transformation is taking place. A man who was once a prince of privilege now lives as an exile. Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the disgraced Duke of York, has been stripped of nearly everything: his royal titles, his military honors, and finally, his home. For decades, the Royal Lodge at Windsor had been his sanctuary, a symbol of comfort, denial, and inherited security. Today, its gates stand silent, watched over by guards who no longer salute him. The echoes of his former life have faded, replaced by the whir of engines thousands of miles away in a city built on sand and ambition, Abu Dhabi. A world of mirrored towers, white-hot sunlight, and the kind of wealth that erases scandal with a single gesture. Here, behind walls higher than the palms that line the avenues, lies Andrew's new refuge, a palace offered not by his nation, but by a foreign ruler. According to palace insiders, this sprawling mansion, over 16,000 square feet of marble, glass, and gold, has been prepared for the former duke by none other than Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the ruler of the UAE, and one of the most powerful men in the world. To understand how a British prince ended up seeking shelter in a Gulf palace, one must look back to a time when Andrew's name was not yet synonymous with scandal. In the early 1982, Prince Andrew stood tall in naval blues, the Queen's proud second son, serving in the Royal Navy during the Falklands War. Photographs of the young lieutenant, smiling from the deck of his helicopter carrier, once symbolized bravery and duty. The tabloids called him Randy Andy, a playful nickname for a prince known as much for charm as for service. But the image of the daring pilot would one day collapse under the weight of accusations, bad judgment, and misplaced loyalty. As the years passed, Andrew's official duties narrowed. He became Britain's special representative for international trade, a role that took him across the Middle East, where oil, wealth, and diplomacy often blurred into one another. It was during this period that he grew close to figures like Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, then the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi. Business dinners turned into friendships. Trade missions evolved into private invitations. For Andrew, the Emirates represented not just opportunity, but admiration, a world where royalty and wealth spoke the same language. Fast forward to the 21st century, and the once trusted envoy was a man surrounded by controversy. His name appeared in headlines tied to Jeffrey Epstein, the disgraced financier whose network of power and exploitation would ensnare one of Britain's most recognizable royals. The infamous interview on the BBC, intended to clear his name, did the opposite. Under the bright lights of the camera, Andrew's words appeared detached, his tone defensive. World watched in disbelief as a prince tried to explain why he couldn't sweat, why he couldn't recall the young woman accusing him, and why he thought dining at a convicted sex offender's home was convenient. The backlash was swift and merciless. Public opinion turned cold. Within weeks, Buckingham Palace announced that Prince Andrew would step back from all royal duties for the foreseeable future. But the exile didn't end there. In early 2022, King Charles, then newly ascended, made the final decision to strip his brother of all military titles and the use of His Royal Highness. It was an unprecedented move, one that signaled the monarchy's attempt to preserve its own survival. For Andrew, it was the end of an identity. When the Royal Lodge at Windsor was reclaimed, friends described Andrew as lost, restless, and angry. But exile has its own peculiar rhythm, and for those who still have money and friends in high places, it can also be luxurious. According to multiple reports, Andrew began exploring properties abroad. The UAE quickly emerged as the safest option, far from Britain's tabloids, yet close enough to the circles of wealth and influence that once defined his life. Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, now president of the UAE, is said to have extended a personal invitation, a chance to live quietly within one of Abu Dhabi's most secure compounds, a vast coastal estate housing senior Emirati officials and members of the ruling family. Here, privacy is absolute. Surveillance cameras guard the perimeter. Access is limited to those with government-issued passes. Within its 30-foot walls lies a world invisible to the outside, an enclave of discretion, luxury, and silence. The property itself is extraordinary. 6 bedrooms, each lined with marble and cooled by custom air conditioning systems. A home cinema and an indoor pool rival those of any royal residence. Gold fixtures gleam under chandeliers. Even the light. Switches shimmer with engraving. A British designer who worked on the renovation described it as a modern palace grand, but muted in its grandeur, the kind of place meant to impress quietly. It is here that Andrew is expected to settle an unspoken arrangement that mirrors the fate of Spain's former king, Juan Carlos, who also took refuge in Abu Dhabi after his own fall from grace. Both men share a bond forged by scandal, a reminder that even in disgrace, titles open doors. Critics, however, see danger in such alliances. For years, Andrew's ties to foreign businessmen and oligarchs have raised eyebrows in Westminster. A royal, even one stripped of duty, remains a symbol of Britain. Some former diplomats warn that his presence in the UAE could expose the monarchy to questions of influence, what is offered, and what might be expected in return. As one parliamentary aide once put it, you don't send the Queen's son to live among billionaires without consequences. But to those who know Andrew, the move is less about politics and more about survival. He wants to disappear, one longtime friend told reporters. He's tired of being a headline. He wants peace, even if it's gilded. Back in Britain, Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York and Andrew's ex-wife, faces her own uncertain path. For years, she shared the royal lodge with him, long after their divorce, raising eyebrows but defending the arrangement as modern family. Now, with Andrew's exile all but confirmed, that chapter appears closed. Friends say she has grown restless, her media ventures dwindling, her royal ties fading. She's weighing her options, said one source close to the Duchess. With her daughters abroad and her home gone, there's little keeping her here. Their daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, have indeed spent more time overseas, appearing at conferences in the Middle East, attending events in Weekling, Riyadh, and Dubai. Insiders whisper that they are softening the ground for their father's relocation, a quiet logistical dance that hints at permanent departure. Royal exiles are not new. From Edward VIII's abdication in 1936 to the quieter departures of minor princes across Europe, the crown has always carried its share of fallen figures. But Andrew's case is unique, a fall not for love or politics, but for association, arrogance, and refusal to adapt. Unlike his ancestors, he is not stripped of wealth or completely isolated. Instead, he drifts between worlds, unwanted in his homeland, yet unwilling to live as anything less than royal. At home, the monarchy rebuilds its image. King Charles, focused on legacy and reform, has drawn a clear boundary. Public sympathy for Andrew is virtually non-existent. Polls show that even among royalists, few wish to see him return to public life. And so, as Britain moves on, Andrew recedes his story, reduced to headlines and whispers. His portrait removed from palace walls, his name now a cautionary tale. Inside his new Abu Dhabi home, life follows a different rhythm. The call to prayer drifts across the water at dawn. The city wakes beneath a haze of heat. Guards patrol the compound while staff attend to routines perfected in silence. Here, Andrew can swim without cameras watching, dine without reporters waiting beyond the gates, and move about unseen. It is, by all accounts, the anonymity he long sought. But it comes at a cost. Isolation. The courtiers are gone, the ceremonies finished. For a man raised to expect deference, the quiet can be deafening. And so, the story closes, where it began, in the shimmering heat of a desert far from home. Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, once a celebrated son of the Queen, now walks the corridors of a foreign palace, surrounded by gold and guarded by silence. His new life is not one of punishment, but of distance. A man living within walls that protect him from scrutiny, but also from meaning. The monarchy endures, but his chapter has ended. In the grand halls of Windsor, his name is rarely spoken. In the marble rooms of Abu Dhabi, it echoes quietly, a reminder of what privilege can build and what pride can destroy.